Well, Democrats have made racism a very center of their platform for the entire time that the Democrat Party really has existed. I mean, how many of you even know that the Democrats, they were the Confederates, they were the slave owners, and they were trying to bring slavery up into the North. This is actually what created the Republican Party. The Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan. The Democrats are the party of Jim Crow. All the things that they pretend that they are against now are the exact same Democrats that they were for back then. So the idea that there is somehow this switch on the Democrat Party and the Republican Party is another blatant, flat out lie. As now the Democrats are still just as racist as they always were, but now instead of the racism only going against the black community, they're now also trying to do this racism where they're trying to switch it and make it against the white men. That is, of course, until they find out that when you go racist against the white men, then they stop voting for you. So now they're trying to pretend to grow their beards and put a greasy hair guy out in front of a camera. But it's the exact same Democrats that it has always been. And their racism is still towards the black and brown and every other community, but they've just adjusted their gears a little bit. As we're going to start today, we're going to be talking about Joy Reid, her latest racist rant. But I want to give some context for this moment before we get into this deeper dive of not only what she's talking about, but the part of the thing that the Democrats always have to do when they lie to you, the American voters, is that one, they will tell you a partial truth like Joy Reid is going to do here, but then they will leave out the rest of the truth that would allow you to come to the right conclusion, and then leave out any context that would also not bring you to the conclusion that they want you to come to. Because the Democrats know very well that if they told you the entire truth, the full truth, that you would never, ever come to the conclusions that they want you to come to. And this is why they lie. Just like Joy Reid is doing here and many other the Democrats. Because the Democrats, they have been so abundantly just married to racism that has become their entire identity complex. Even someone like Joy Reid, who is a multi-millionaire from here in the United States, from the evil capitalism, your greedy pig dollars. Yes, she lives very, very well from it. But it's so ingrained into their identity that she still tries to play off that she's somehow a victim. And this is the same thing like Michelle Obama. I mean, she will come in and she'll talk about how she's so oppressed and then get on a private jet and fly back to her mansion in Martha's Vineyard or wherever else she's going to go. It's the same hoax over and over and over again, but also part of this that makes it just really evil amongst all the other racism is that the racism of low expectations. See, for the Democrats, for the entire platform to work, you have to believe that you cannot achieve on your own, that you need them, especially if you're not white. The expectations themselves of low expectations are a form of racism themselves. They're just as evil and as vile as the rest of the Democrats' racism. As opposed to our side of the aisle that believes a very simple truth that's built into the United States of America. That I don't care what color your skin is. And I do not care what the color of your background is. What I care about is the context of your character. That's what really matters. Who you are as a person. And the reality that the Democrats do not want you to know is that it doesn't matter what color your skin is, that now here in the United States of America, you have more opportunity in this very moment than anybody else has ever had in the history of the world. And we're going to be going through a lot of why that is right now, because it's actually going to be thanks in many parts to the evil white men. This goes all the way back to the Democrats. So to go into their identity politics here for a moment and why they have stuck so hard to their racist rants, it's because their entire worldview is the hatred of America. That is somehow it's just so sinful that you can never, ever recover from it. And of course, for the Democrats, then with these identity politics, since that you can never wash away the stains, it then has to be the Democrats who come in and save the day, right? That they somehow have moral superiority over you. But in their fake virtue signaling, you actually lose your agency. You lose your right. What is guaranteed in our Declaration of Independence is your right to pursue happiness. See, there's a big myth, especially from the left, where they think you have the right to be happy. And that is not in our Constitution or in the Declaration of Independence that our Constitution is based off of. It's the right to pursue happiness, not the right to be happy. See, that is the difference between equality, having the opportunity to have, to earn, to live, and to grow, which we will cover a lot of that today, versus equity in the Democrats, where the Democrats try to say that life is just very unfair, especially if you're not the right skin color. So therefore, they have to come in and they have to change the finish line. And they have to take away opportunities from those that have earned and give those opportunities to those of people that have not earned. That is essentially the entire Democrats' platform and everything they stand for. And to come to that conclusion, they then have to lie to you, the American people, about history and what is happening currently now in the United States of America. As we have two clips we're going to get into on this first part. First, here is Joy Reid's part. And Joy Reid, she's going to go in and she's going to do her normal racist rants, which caused her collapse on MSNBC. And then also she's going to lie about some parts about history. And she's going to do what the Democrats often do about when they talk about anything that's happened in the past, is they'll marry a truth to a lie. So let's play that clip now, and then we'll talk about all this and the poison of identity politics. Here is Joy Reid.
Can't fix the history they did. Their ancestors made this country into a slave hell. But they can clean it up now because they got the Smithsonian. They can get rid of all the slavery stuff. They got PragerU. They can lie about the history to the children. They can't originally invent anything more than they ever were able to invent.
And so before she gets into the part of the innovations, you see how she starts out there where, it's all just unjust, right? Everything is bad for anyone that is not white, but the white people have had it good for far too long. And that really takes away all of your agency. And it's a really sad thing for people who have been indoctrinated into this insanity that is also not true. Because we have people from all over the world, from all different types of history, that have had a lot of success here in the United States. In fact, we talked a lot about this on Monday, especially from the Asian community, who has had it very bad at times here in the United States and throughout the world. And yet they have some of the highest success rates, a lot higher than the evil white people. And the reason why I believe that is because they believe in the nuclear family, as they have the mother and the father who graduate high school and then have an income and then raise the children in a mother and father household and push those kids to have good grades and go on and have good careers. And then they, of course, do the same thing with their children, their children, and their children. And that's why they have so much success, opposed to like people like Joy Reid, who look so far in the past on these crimes that have never happened to them. Okay, let's be very, very clear. Here in the United States, no one alive today has been a slave. And no one alive today has owned a slave. In fact, it was the Democrats who owned the slaves and the Republican Party who came in and freed those slaves. Something the Democrats don't want you to know, as they're somehow trying to do this change in history. And they also don't want you to know, as this, they do through this revisionist history, it's because they have to go back to this one point in time, as they do always, to get you to come to these wrong conclusions. They will try to find something, this one point, right, that they think lines up with everything else that they want you to believe in. And so once they get you to that one point, then all of a sudden they have to expand that to everything else. Just like this goes to the institutional racism, is that they go back to slavery when no one here is a slave and no one here is owned a slave. So therefore, because of that's happened in past generations, now all of you must pay the price. Thus, the DEI of now of where they again go back to not to merit base, not to tell people that you can achieve in this country if you work hard, right? The Democrats have to take away your agency, and then they have to tell you that you need them to save you. So therefore, the Democrats are like the very center of their racism, their DEI, and their low expectations is that they're going to create a finish line. And then they're going to look at the finish line and they're going to say, well, you shouldn't be able to cross this finish line because you're white and you've had it good for far too long. So we're going to take that opportunity from you. And now this other person over here, right, we're going to give that opportunity to them. It doesn't matter if they've earned it. It doesn't matter if they're qualified to do the job or not. See, it's all identity check boxes to them. And then we see all the problems that have been created from this. And hopefully more and more people are waking up, as we also have a clip later on we're going to play where you're having a debate between a male and a female, and they're arguing about this really dishonest look at our history and a very dishonest look at now in the United States of America and the opportunities that you have. And so she's now going to go on and she's going to talk about this one point, as we just discussed, as the end point. And then she's talking about a song. This is something that Elvis Presley really made famous. But the reality was he was not the one who created this song. However, she's going to lie about a lot of the details to get you to come to the conclusion that you never ever would have came to if you had known the whole story. So this is the first part. So I want you to listen to her. She's going to tell you a part that is the truth, but she's going to marry it to a lot of lies. And we're going to expose all of that right now. And we have almost 2,000 people here alone on X right now into the show. CASHLOREN, it's great to be with you guys again as we discuss the really rough and tough world of politics and not afraid to take on the very difficult conversations that we need to have in today's politics. If you're enjoying this, please take a moment and repost and help share the show and spread a conservative message. And with that, here is Joy Reid. Listen to her, how she marries the truth with a lie, and see if you catch it.
We black folk gave y'all country music, hip hop, R&B, jazz, rock and roll. They couldn't even invent that, but they have to call a white man the king because they couldn't make rock and roll. So they have to stamp the king on a man whose main song was stolen from an overweight black woman.
Okay, did you catch the lie? See, she's going all the way back to the 50s here. And so a lot of the context may be lost in today, but we're going to go and we're going to expose how she married that lie to a truth. Okay, because the lie is that Elvis Presley stole it from a black woman. And she also goes into the lie there about how, the white man has never invented anything or done anything good for society, which is also a blatant lie. We're going to get into that in a moment as well. But first, get into an example of how she lies about the history. So the king, of course, as many I'm sure will know, as either the parents or grandparents listen to, would be Elvis Presley. And the claim is that his song, Hound Dog, is he stole this from a black overweight woman. Now, there is truth and there's lies married in this. We're going to kind of step through this as step by step as the best we can here on the CASHLOREN show. As they're saying, again, the king's best song was stolen from an overweight black woman. The being that the Hound Dog is what actually put Elvis Presley on the map. See, that part is true. But the stolen part is not. Because here's the parts that she left out of this. So this was what she calls the Big Mama Thornton, she called it the overweight black woman who was an R&B blues singer. And she sung Hound Dog back in 1952. So 4 years roughly before Elvis Presley came out. See, that part is true. Well, there's a lot of context she leaves out because you never would have came to the conclusion she wanted you to come to if you had known this. Did you know that she not only did not write the song, but she did not own it? And this is the part that's really going to make people like Joy Reid's just minds pop. Because the song was written by Jerry Leiber and Mike Stroller, and they were both young Jewish boys. And that really blows up their identity politics anyways. And not that any of this matters, but she's the one making about the race. As I said it from the very beginning of the show, I don't care what color your skin is, and I don't care what your background is. What I care about is you as a context of a character. It's you, who you are as a person. That's all I care about. None of that matters to Joy Reid. It's been so indoctrinated to be a victim to her that she's even willing to lie to herself and lie to what's left of her audience over these kind of details to get somebody to come to a conclusion. I don't know what it is, or I don't know why it's so ingrained in some people's lives that they just have to be a victim. I mean, why is that? We've all had very bad things happen to us at different degrees, sure. And some people have suffered more than others, and some people have had it easier than others. But at some point, you have to have agency over your life. And when something bad happens to you, you got two choices. Okay, you can either just be a victim and live in misery like Joy Reid does, or you can tuck your pants in your boots and you can find a way to work through it and to overcome it and to have greater success. As we're going to talk about a lot of people who have done so. But this going into a big Mama Thornton, who was the blues singer, who again, she was right, was ahead of Elvis Presley. But the part she left out was the song was actually written and made for her by two young Jewish boys, because those facts don't fit her narrative. Now, her bluesy R&B that came out before him sold around 500,000 copies and was peaked on the R&B charts. Now, she's going to try to talk about how racial segregation and limited opportunities for Black people, especially in the 1950s, there probably was some truth to that. And then also how the record labels were doing a lot of damage to artists back then and taking a vast majority of the money, which also there is some truth to that, but she leaves a lot of the rest of the context out. Because the people that wrote the song, Jerry and Mike, they were only paid $500 for that song. But what they did do is they owned the rights to the song. Okay, this is going to come up very important later. So she had about 500,000, modest hit, and she made some decent money, but not long-term money out of that. And I want to also point out too here that her song and what they wrote for him was specifically targeted to the R&B community, meaning the Black community at the time. Right? That was her target audience. And it's just a smaller demographic. Even to have 500,000 for a smaller audience is great. But it's not to the audience of someone like Elvis Presley. When he wrote his song, see, this is the difference for a much larger audience. So Elvis Presley, he took that song and he sped it up and he put his Elvis tap on that. And that song just went what we call today multi-viral, as he sold over 10 million copies of that song alone and became the ultimate cultural phenomenon that is now known as the King. And his chart, which is more of a pop as opposed to R&B, was over on top for 11 weeks. See, that was the difference. Now, like you said, Jerry and Mike, they own that song, and they resold it again to Elvis Presley. And Elvis Presley then took the song and made it his own. So you have to ask yourself here a couple of different questions. Did that take Elvis Presley to the top? Yes. Was that Elvis Presley's only great song? Of course not. He had many, many huge hits. And let's say that song had never existed, or let's say that Mama Thornton had never, ever written or sung that song. Would Elvis Presley still have been a huge star without it? I think there's a very good chance he would have. And those, of course, are the parts that she doesn't want you to know. Now, her claim, and of course, her narrative is all that how that, the white man, their narrative has also benefited from the Black music innovation. And there is, of course, probably truth to that. Without proper credit is also not true, as Elvis Presley did give her and others his credit. Is just about every artist is inspired by somebody. It doesn't matter what field you're in. If you're in music, if you're in television, if you're here on the radio show, right? I have the people that inspired me to come and to do this show. Just like if you go into music, they'll talk about the people that inspired before them. Or you'll have in the movies that they watched when they were younger, and now they want to try to inspire them to make the movies they have now. The history of that just goes on and on and on. Skip ahead. So now he did write in 1956 in the Liberty song, who were paid again for Elvis Presley, because remember they had maintained rights over that song. And then Elvis' version brought her little recognition or financial gain, but why would it? She didn't own the song. She didn't own the rights. And Elvis Presley made this song. So this is what's so vile and evil about the left and the people like Joy Reid. And it's very unfortunate for the others who go in and start to believe in this kind of nonsense. This institutional racism, this perpetual victimhood that takes away people's rights and their agency. It's here in the United States. You have more opportunity now. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your background is. The right to pursue happiness is not easy. In fact, it's very, very hard. It's really easy to sit on your back foot and pretend that you're a victim and that you can't make your own way in here in the United States. When the reality is you have more availability now to build wealth and have success than anybody in the history of the world. Ever, right now, this very moment. Doesn't matter what your skin color is, and it does not matter what your background is. You are free and you are breathing. You can do the hard work and you can earn success. That is the right to pursue happiness. Unlike these evil, vile, racist scumbags like Joy Reid, who think that you're just going to be a perpetual victim because they're so miserable and angry. It's something about this leftism hatred. Now, we're way over our break. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot more also about history of the United States and who all the inventors were, as Joy Reid tries to make how we, because you are white, is that you somehow stole this all from the black community, which is, of course, blatantly false. We're going to cover that and a whole lot more, including this other clip we have. We have found this really good debate on these two about the United States dream versus somebody else who wants to be a victim permanently and ignore all the opportunities that they have. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more when we're back from this greedy profit break. This is the CASHLOREN Show.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2025, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage on all 3 of the major networks, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Folks, have you wanted to start a podcast but you just don't know where to begin? Podbeam is your all-in-one solution to host your podcast and distribute it all across the internet. With my code on the affiliate link down below, you will gain also 1 month free to try the Podbeam service. This is really your one-stop solution to hosting your podcast. Record it, you put it up to just a single upload. Then that upload will distribute to all of the main platforms all across the internet, including Apple and Spotify and many, many others. It will then also automatically share your podcast across all major social media, making your job easier so you can spend more time recording the podcasts that you love and less time managing them on the back end. Podbeam is your all-in-one solution for your podcast needs. Click on the link below. to CASHLOREN and get your 1 free month today. The corporate media has lied to the American voters for such a long time that they have lost all their influence as a result. And this has also led to the rise of the independent creators, just like here on the CASHLOREN show, where we take our spare bedroom and convert it into a studio. If you're enjoying this content, it will always be free, but you can continue to help support monetarily if you choose to do so. Click on the locals link. It is only $5 a month. This is just a cup of coffee. Not only will you be supporting an independent creator, but you'll be getting lots of free perks in addition to that as well, including exclusive articles and Sunday shows, and thanking you at the end of videos with your name recognition. Take a moment and consider and help support independent creators as we fight fake news. Go to locals right now, hit the support button for just a cup of coffee a month. It'll be worth every single penny, and you're getting lots of extra benefits too. We've been talking a lot today about how the left has been married to racism and very opposed to the way the United States of America is built. As the United States of America is designed for the right to pursue happiness, meaning that it doesn't matter what color your skin is, and it doesn't matter what color your background is, what matters is your content of character. And now, in today, 2025, it doesn't matter what your background or what your race is. You have more opportunity now here in the United States than anybody else, not only in the world, but in the history of the human race. The things that we take for granted now, from electricity to running water to penicillin to phones to cars to planes, you just go down the list of all the things that we take for granted because they're available every single day. Yet most of humanity has never had access to these things. And people like Joy Reid want to make it all about race, she says how the white man stole everything from the black people. According to Joy Reid, and that's her words, that's her entire worldview. I can't imagine why her show got canceled on MSNBC. I mean, it's amazing. But of course, is again not true. As here we're going to go through a whole stack of things that were invented by these evil white people that have made everybody's lives better. But we have steam engines. Those are the trains invented in 1765 by James Watts. Telephones by Alexander Graham Bell. So when you get on your phone, you can think an evil white man. Light bulbs by Thomas Edison. Automotive was done way back by Carl Benz, even though a lot of people give this to Henry Ford. It was really Henry Ford that made the automation line, the assembly line, really famous, not the automobiles itself. You know, he's known for the Ford motor vehicles. He wasn't the actual original creator of the automobiles. The airplanes to the Wright brothers. So every time you go and you take a flight or you drive a car, or you talk on your cell phone, go thank those evil white men. How about penicillin? How many lives has that saved? Transistors, personal computers, the World Wide Web, and even electric guitars. And that it just goes on from there, right? It just continues down and the thing is, I don't care. I don't care what any of these people's color skin is, but it is people like Joy Reid who makes it about race when it's not. It never has been. It's about who you are as a person. See, this is what makes America so great, is that if you're the best of the best, if you can come up with something that is unique and can help society, then you can gain vast amounts of wealth in a single generation. I mean, we're not even covering things like entertainment, like Walt Disney Company. Or Walt Disney, a poor immigrant with nothing, built a vast empire to this that lives on to this day. If it wasn't for all these evil white people, I mean, you wouldn't have running water, you wouldn't have electricity, or you wouldn't have cars, you wouldn't have planes, you wouldn't have phones. And Joy Reid seems to somehow leave all that out, as they always do when the facts no longer fit their narratives. What an evil, vile woman. The worst of the worst. And then speaking on this very same topic as we're talking about in the United States, you can have the opportunity to grow in no matter what your background and history is. I have here now, I'm going to play this part, and this is going to be a clip as these two people that are having a discussion, and this is on racism and reparations. And no one alive today owes reparations to anybody. And the parts that the Democrats always leave out is they're going to talk about slavery here in a minute. But the things they leave out here is less than 2% of Americans own slaves, even at the very height of slavery. The other parts that they leave out is it was actually the other black people who were enslaving their own people and then selling them onto the slave trade over to the United States of America. And then it was the evil white people who stopped the slavery, such as Britain in the Republican Party. And that's only the most recent slavery. They ignore all the other slaveries where all the other people, of course, are enslaving their own people to their own people. The Democrats never want to talk about that because that doesn't fit the narrative that they're trying to lie to you about, is that their entire identity is based on hatred and based on being a victim. So they have to believe this lie that they are a victim of slavery now, and that somehow you owe them money for that. You don't, and no one else does. And then this young man, I think, makes a really good point. And then on the other side, this woman, she can't cover her ideas, so she just goes to her normal attitude like the left always does.
If everyone here like a $50,000 check, especially people that are in the streets who are committing violent crimes consistently, a $50,000 check, it's not going to fix anything. It's not going to increase the median household income in the next 10 years by 10% or 20%. For example, we have the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. We prevented Chinese people from getting citizenship and even entering the country. We discriminated against them and basically put them under apartheid, even here in the United States. Yet they have the highest median household income. How is that possible? How come they don't complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that black people kill each other, according to the FBI?
Right. See, there you go. There's facts getting away the Democrats' narrative. And she's just like, oh my gosh, you can't give this doesn't fit our narrative. See, I'm a victim. Whether her ancestors were slaves or not, I don't know. But he's making a very good point here, especially like from the Asians, and he could bring up the Jewish community who didn't have a very good 20th century. Yet said they are also some of the most successful people in the world. Why is that? See, it's because they didn't, one, become permanent dependent on the federal government. The thing that the left, that they're so hooked on, is that they're going to be victims, is actually what's causing them to actually become victims, but not victims of past slavery, victims of the federal government. As Ronald Reagan said it best, if you hear the federal government, I'm here to help run. Because the federal government is not the solution, the federal government is the problem. As they specifically targeted the black community. And this is going back to when first with the slavery, right? And then the Republicans gone and freed the slaves. Now we move up to the 60s and we have now the Civil Rights Act, which was passed by Republicans. Democrats never want to talk about that either. And then what happened after the Civil Rights Act is then the Democrats under Lyndon B. Johnson, they corrupted it. And they created this hook into the black community where they said that they called this the Great Society, where they were going to make people dependent on the federal government for income. And then the nastiest hook in all of that was in order to get this free money, these checks, either free, it always has a hook that comes with it. So the hook was that the father had to be kicked out of the home. And what do we know about single motherhood across all races and across everywhere, right? Single motherhood has the highest rates of poverty, drugs, crime, and criminality. In fact, it's almost all exclusively to single motherhood. And what did the Democrat Party do instead of actually making people free, of telling them that this is the hard road, is to get out and work, get married, stay married, and raise children in a two-parent household. Instead, they said, no, be dependent on the government programs. Here's housing, here's food stamps, here's cash. Now you're living in poverty, but you have to kick the fathers out. So then they have babies to get these checks, but the fathers cannot be there. And then all of a sudden, the more and more babies being raised in single moms in poverty. What happens, of course? Crime, drugs, every time. And it creates this perpetual motion over and over and over and over again. And the only real way to break that is to stop being dependent on the federal government programs, is to bring the fathers back into the homes, graduate high school, have a job. Then you get married. And then after you're married, you then have children. You stay married. You raise those children in a two-parent household, and you teach those children to obey the law, to graduate high school, to get a job, to marry, to stay married, and then raise their children in a two-parent household. See, it's actually the home. It's the nuclear family that, under our Lord Savior Jesus Christ, that gives the most opportunity to your right to pursue happiness. But the Democrats are villains, and the villains need victims. So these villains, they corrupted that. Instead of making the family under God, they're now making it about the government coming in, and the government being God. And when the government is actually destroying the families. It's sad and it's horrible. And I've had this conversation before, and people like what she's about to say, when we have these conversations, they just don't want to believe it. People like Joy Reid and people like this woman here, they want to be permanent victims for their entire lives. They've bought so into this DEI nonsense that they just can't accept reality. Like the government is the problem, and it's not the evil white man. Like he said, most crime is black on black crime. In fact, black crime is only, I think, black about 15% of society, and yet commit over 50% of the murders. And most of the murders they commit are against other black males. And they never want to talk about these facts because they get in the way of the narratives. But that is the actual truth. And now she is going to double down. Of course, the Democrats, they can't fight on the world of ideals. So instead, it's just immediate attitude.
Yet white people are the oppressors.
I'm not sure where your education came from, but they lied to you.
Stats don't lie, though.
Statistics lie all the time. So let's start there, particularly when the statistics are coming from the sources that gain from the statistics being shown a different way. So if you're going to start your argument on stats don't lie, you've already lost the argument. They lie. They lie.
Yeah. How has he lost the argument? All right. If she's got something now to provide, then provide it. But of course she can't, because she can't stand on the idea of that the government is the solution, because the government really is the problem. Just like we said, right? Solution, nuclear family under our Lord Savior Jesus Christ. This is how we win the battle for the United States. And if you're sitting there listening to this and you've bought in these lies, I hope this helps you come out of that and believe in the American dream and believe in American exceptionalism. As we went through all the opportunity that you have today that no one else in the history of the United States has had. She can't stand it. She can't believe it. So she said, you know what? You're lying. Your stats are lying. But where is the lie? Of course, she can't explain it. Okay, so what stats does she have to counter that? Of course, none. Because they're so drunk on being victims that they don't want to hear anything else. And it's sad to see someone throw away their life like this, but too many do.
One, comparing Chinese people who are immigrants that made a choice to come to the United States and comparing the continued effort of Black people to ground themselves in a nation that continues to make impediments for them to show and live and exist in their true citizenship is a false equivalency.
I don't believe
it doesn't happen at all. Not for a single moment. In fact, the exact opposite happens. all of these programs that the government has created is supposed to help the Black community. Remember, we talked about how they're supposed to bring up with the Great Society Reset, but even today with like affirmative action and with DEI, it's actually the opposite. It's institutional racism that's supposed to help the Black community and take opportunities away from the evil white people. So they actually benefit from institutional racism. But she, of course, then doesn't see it that way because she will not accept that the government is the problem in the first place.
But no one here is
Are you acting right now? Do you really believe
I'm telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people. The University of Western Washington, for example, has been trying to segregate dormitories, using Black-only dormitories because Black people feel safer amongst each other. But they're more likely to kill each other than white people are ever to kill them. That's just the truth. You have King Von rapping about killing other Black men. Why should I think that the white man is the oppressor?
Facts, absolute facts. And she just cannot stand it. Just like I said just a moment ago, right? The institutional racism isn't against Black communities. It's against, now from what they're trying to push, the DEI against the evil white men, as the Democrats have used Marxism as we call American Marxism. The traditional Marxism would be the haves and have-nots, the landowners, the wealth. But that doesn't work in the United States because there's too much money spread around. So the communists, the Marxists, they then redid it, and they instead decided to draw down a line. If you have the evil white people, right, who are the oppressors, versus the people of color who are the oppressed. Again, none of that is true, but that is their entire worldview, to be permanent victims. And then somehow that they think that they're going to get reparation checks from this. But then again, the so-called reparation checks that have been given out since the Great Society, right? Giving the housing, giving the food stamps, giving the food, and giving the money has actually caused all the problems that the Black community and others face today by kicking the fathers out of the home and making people dependent on the federal government, who is not the solution. The federal government is the problem. But the Democrats, what they do is they try to go to one point in history, right, that the slavery and that the white people slaved Black people, which again is very, one, not completely true, but two, it was the Black people who were fighting their own people, putting them on the ships, enslaving them, doing the transatlantic trade. And then it was the white people, these evil white men, who actually stopped it. They never want to tell you that. They never want to go past the point of the slavery of the early in the United States and talk about all the other slavery that's happened throughout history, because again, that doesn't fit any of their narratives. So of course they're going to ignore that too.
You need to think about me as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now. Okay. So on a basic level, we have to understand.
We can't have facts getting in the way of her narrative, right? She's a victim and she deserves reparations. She doesn't have to justify herself. She doesn't have to explain herself to you. That is just the way it is. And if you don't believe that, when you're a racist, bigot, homophobe, transphobe, right? Don't talk to me like that. I'm going to talk to you like your mama.
Systemic racism is grounded in the realities that Black people have not been considered an equal human being in this country since its onset. So there's simply no way to make the argument that there isn't systemic racism, and we have seen in very clear ways the system operate in an organically racist way. Do not cut me off. What
way? She can't say what way. What way? What way is this institutional racism against Black people happening today? What opportunities does somebody that skin is not the color of mine not have today in the United States that I have? Please answer that, anybody. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They have more opportunity because of things like DEI and affirmative action. And he brought out correctly, such as like institutions and others, where they would try to go and they recruit people basically on the color of skin, and not be people because they're white, because the people that think like she does. So hopefully you never buy into this insanity that she's bought into. because as you hear there, she can't actually explain what the racism is, what opportunities they don't have. Not one of them can answer that. And with that, I'm way over a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more, including some breaking news with Letitia James. You're not going to miss that or anything else. This is the Cash Lauren Show.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2025, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage on all 3 of the major networks, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Folks, have you wanted to start a podcast but you just don't know where to begin? Podbeam is your all-in-one solution to host your podcast and distribute it all across the internet. With my code on the affiliate link down below, you will gain also 1 month free to try the Podbeam service. This is really your one-stop solution to hosting your podcast. Record it, you put it up to just a single upload. Then that upload will distribute to all of the main platforms all across the internet, including Apple and Spotify and many, many others. It will then also automatically share your podcast across all major social media, making your job easier so you can spend more time recording the podcasts that you love and less time managing them on the back end. Podbeam is your all-in-one solution for your podcast needs. Click on the link below, the Cash Lauren, and get your 1 free month today. The corporate media has lied to the American voters for such a long time that they have lost all their influence as a result. And this has also led to the rise of the independent creators, just like here on the Cash Lauren Show, where we take our spare bedroom and convert it into a studio. If you're enjoying this content, it will always be free, but you can continue to help support monetarily if you choose to do so. Click on the locals link. It is only $5 a month. This is just a cup of coffee. Not only will you be supporting an independent creator, but you'll be getting lots of free perks in addition to that as well, including exclusive articles and Sunday shows, and thanking you at the end of videos with your name recognition. Take a moment and consider and help support independent creators as we fight fake news. Go to locals right now, hit the support button for just a cup of coffee a month. It'll be worth every single penny, and you're getting lots of extra benefits too. Well, the Democrats are in a lot of trouble as they have been benefiting from the two-tier justice system for such a long time. But now it looks like they may face prosecution for their crimes. So welcome back, everybody. Greetings. It's great to be with you again here. I'm your host, Cash Lauren, making the left cry tears that are saltier than you know who's fried. On this segment, we start off with Ed Martin, as he has been signed to special prosecutor to investigate Letitia James and to Adam Schiff for their mortgage fraud. To briefly go over the background of this is you're allowed to have one private residence as being your primary home. Now, you can own as many homes as you want, but only one can be your primary. And why this brings in the same thing with Letitia James and Adam Schiff is they claim primary residence on more than one home appears at the same time. So many times when you own or when you work for the federal government and you're like a senator or your house, or if you're like Letitia James and you're attorney general, you have to have your primary residence on where you serve the community. So Letitia James' primary residence has to be in New York. whereas Adam Schiff's primary residence had to be where he was in his House seat and now where he's in the Senate. However, not only did they claim that to get those jobs, but then they also claimed other private residences, according to this, as their primary residence to gain better interest rates and loans and I think insurance on the properties, if I remember correctly, when they wouldn't be able to get that if they had not lied on these applications, allegedly by what they're investigating. And the evidence looks pretty damning for them. So this broke right as we were going live today. Is apparently Special Prosecutor Ed Martin had called New York Attorney General Letitia James, and he had asked her to resign among the criminal investigations into her mortgage fraud. So this, for her, she had, I think, two separate ones. One for New York, which she said was her primary residence, but then one outside of New York that she also said was her private residence to get a loan, and then a separate property where she lied about the number of units allegedly in that property to also get a loan that she would not have been able to get if she had been honest on that paper. Now, she can blame Trump, and she can blame MAGA, and she can blame me, and she can blame you, and all the evil white people, but none of them put her pen to paper. Okay, she made the conscious choice. Like when I had my mortgage for my home that we live now, right? They ask you, is this your primary residence? Yes or no? And then you do all the other things to do with your title, and then all the other proof you have to do that the home exists, you have running water, electricity, all that stuff. Then after that, if you ever want to go and leave that property, or you want to buy a second property, the application is different. Whether it be a second home or be a vacation home or be a rental, everything else changes. They all know that, and they allegedly lied about it. But the Democrats, the thing that they've gotten away from, what we call the two-tier justice system for such a long time, where we have all these laws in the United States, but they were only selectively enforced, and they were selectively enforced with a lesser degree to if you're on the right side, right, the Democrats on the left, but they're very harsh if you were on the wrong side of the federal government. And this is something that I think that the Democrats have benefited from for a very long time. Is remarkably Letitia James and especially Adam Schiff have been very open about having multiple primary residences, and now they're stuck. Now apparently Letitia James has refused, and Ed Martin was at her property, physically looking at it just the other day. And then Ed Martin, he posted this morning, "Good morning," and they made all of her eyes rise. What's happening here? Well, looks like this she's about to find out, because if she's refusing to resign, it means that he's very likely going to arrest her very soon, or at least indict her. And on a quick side note, with these federal grand juries, part of this was really scary if you're under an investigation by a grand jury, is they don't have to just stick to whatever they're investigating. If they subpoena records, or they go and they talk to witnesses and they find other crimes, they can go after those too. This is essentially equivalent, if you want to think, let's say police go into a house, let's say for a domestic violence or something. Okay, the police enter the home, and the police find drugs on the table. Okay, now the police, so I played that through, let me mute my phone. Now that the police they don't have to ignore those drugs, even though they only have a warrant for the domestic violence. Now the drugs or guns or whatever on the table, they can now go after them, they can charge them with those too. This works the exact same way. So who knows what is underneath Letitia James? Who knows what she's hiding? But these indictments are coming very soon. And also Adam Schiff, who was openly talking and pretending that he was innocent, now he has shut his mouth. And now he is only talking through a lawyer, and he opened up today where he is now having the Adam Schiff Legal Fund. They're hoping that people will donate to him, as he's going to have to defend himself. Good. See, this is the end of the two-tier justice system. No longer do they get to bankrupt, the Democrats bankrupt people that they don't like. And this is exactly the biggest case like they did to Donald Trump. A law-abiding citizen his entire life. but he dared to leave the Democrat Party. Okay, how many of you know Donald Trump was a lifelong New York Democrat? When Donald Trump's his path and Ronald Reagan's is the very same, as Ronald Reagan was also a lifelong Democrat, but in California. And then ran as a conservative, just like Donald Trump did. And the left, they went after him with everything they had. With impeachment hoaxes, with the Gene Carroll, with the felony hoaxes, with the January 6th, with the boxes, all the other things, they tried to ruin him. And ironically, out of Letitia James, who she went after him for mortgage fraud, but she couldn't go after criminally because she has no evidence. So they had to pair her up with a Trump-hating judge to the Letitia James, who was pretending that she was innocent when she ran on getting Trump openly, blatantly. Elect me and I will get Trump. She didn't even know what Trump had did, but she was going to find something. And then she had to go into this court and get this this civil conviction, which was about $500 million, which is ironically right about the same number they thought that Donald Trump had in his coffers to run for president. Interesting how that works. But they were also going to try to punish him, because then when they got that judgment, they know they're going to lose, very likely, because Trump has done nothing wrong. As in Letitia James' case, there's no victims, there's no crime. I mean, they took away Donald Trump's right to due process. And so they were going to then take that judgment, they were going to seize his properties, and then they were going to sell them. And even if Donald Trump wins, which he would win later, the properties are still gone. He doesn't get the properties back. And this is bigger than Donald Trump, because this was the Democrats and their law machine saying, you know, look what we can do to Donald Trump. You know, if we can do that to Donald Trump, just imagine what we can do to you. I mean, Donald Trump is a very famous billionaire with vast amounts of resources. And look how we took him out. What are you going to do with your average job and your mortgage? So don't even fight us. Don't even try. Don't even do it. That they try to do to Donald Trump, to Alex Jones, to General Michael Flynn, to Steve Bannon, and many, many others. Peter Navarro. The Democrats weaponized the justice system. And now the justice system is not being weaponized. The justice system is being applied equally, just like it always should have been. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican. It doesn't matter if you're a liberal or you're a conservative. If you break the law, you should be subject to that law. No more the FBI opening an investigation or the DOJ doing absolutely nothing. Because what good is a law that's not enforced? With that thought, we're at the top of the hour. The rest of these stories, we'll have to go back in the stack for another day. I appreciate every single one of you being with me. Now we're over 4,000 live views. Every single one of you means a whole lot to me. If you're enjoying this, please take a moment, like, and share this and help us spread an American First message. We'll be with you Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is the CASHLOREN Show. And if you'd like to support further, you can do so on Locals for only $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee, to help independent creators go up against corporate media with their billions of dollars to help bring you the truth, as opposed to them lying to you all the time. That sounds interesting. Thank you to these fine patriots who support the show, and please continue to do so yourself. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is the CASHLOREN Show.